Go.
Yay.
We are live again for another Thursday edition of the Triple Profits Podcast. And I am here with my co-hosts. We got Devontae, the guru, and JD, the champ of real estate.
Yes.
This week's topic it's a good one. So we're going to be talking about credit, business credit, building your profile, basically how to build your credit and and what you can do with a 750 credit score that most people don't think you can do. So let's get right into this, guys. So credit repair. Well, let's not start with credit repair. Credit in general, man. When were you first introduced to credit?
First introduction to credit was I think I was 18 years old. I got a Mary Kay credit card. I bought my girlfriend a ring. I did really good by it though. I paid it off. $250, paid it off, and it certainly helped my credit score.
As for me, first credit was a Visa 49er credit card. And I literally got it for all the wrong reasons.
Tell about a title.
Hey man, keep it like, I was literally 18 at a college campus, and they were giving out duffel bags with the credit card. And I was just like, let me see if I never heard about credit, but never understood the process of using it or getting it. And I was just like, well, I get this free bag with this credit. Didn't understand the, the APR on it, anything like that. Didn't understand any of that stuff. Just got it because literally it was 49er card, and I wanted to get it. I knew I wanted to start learning and utilizing credit, but I had no idea how.
You had a game. I wasn't thinking about using credit. I was thinking about just getting that ring. So I like hearing about.
I feel you. You was in love, yeah. I
was in love, totally.
Yeah. I was fanboying.
Well, shoot, man. By the time it was, I was ready to propose and stuff. My credit was so bad they wouldn't give me a credit card no way.
Oh man.
I think I got one of those 49er credit cards in college, or Chicago Bears version or whatever.
I understand.
But I'm thinking back, guys. If we know what we know now in college, man, they was giving away credit, man. Like water. If I would have known what I know now, my goodness, in college, and I was 18, 19 years old.
Same. So I mean that's why I know they were there, because they know that it's basically children. These are fresh adults.
Yeah,
and
they have no idea.
They have no idea. So it's like, hey, let's go ahead and get some new consumers here.
Well, hey, I think like most people, like you said, you kind of get thrusted. Somebody passes you a application, or they give you some kind of free gift with the credit card if you're on a college campus, or if you don't go to college, you're not introduced to that. You may not even know anything about credit, but you end up getting some of these. Like I remember cell phones used to mess up people, man. You get the cell phone, don't pay the bills, and it's like, man, and that's they basically issuing you, you get a bad remark on your credit score, especially when you would get the phone included.
Yep.
Done so.
It's a bill.
Yep. Yes. I worked at Verizon for a long time. I've seen a lot of that happen. It's very true.
Well, hopefully today's credit masterclass will help, give somebody some insight that they didn't know about credit and help improve that. So we'll go ahead and kind of get going. I did this right the first time we were in there.
It was working. Yeah, you good. There you go. I proved. We saw it, Marcus. It was working. No, you did a good job on this PowerPoint too.
I know, man. My quick 15-minute PowerPoint, but it's packed. It's packed with good knowledge because it's based on the ebook, The Minimum Score. Not only is it for people who own businesses, but if you want to, some quick ways to understand how to, improve your credit score, clean your credit report, get your profile right, so that way you can gain some of these higher limit credit cards. And the ebook, pick it up. It's in the link, so you can find it in the description. But today we're going to talk about how credit works, how to clean that report and build that 750, which is key, and then how to gain a credit high limit cards. I think I said that already, but that's the important takeaways from this this discussion today. Obviously the basics, how credit works. So once we get that card and we don't pay the bill, we get a deduction in our credit score, right? Because your payment history is worth so much and it's so impactful on your credit score. So when you're looking to get what we call consumer credit, you can have a couple remarks, bad remarks on there, a couple late payments, and still, not be like 500 based on your credit profile, right? But when you're out there seeking business credit, you don't want to have any of those remarks, right? Because the business credit doesn't report to your personal credit. So there are some business credit cards that do report, like Discover is one. So if you ever get a Discover business card and you run it up, that debt utilization is shown on your personal credit score.
Capital One is another one. Capital One.
And people get that confused because you're like, man,
it's business.
It's business, right?
Right.
but not all business cards are created the same.
Exactly.
Now, cleaning your report. So I know we talked about this before, like sending out dispute letters. So what do you guys know about dispute letters, man? And be honest, man.
I was gonna say no. Well, like I haven't done the one that we're probably talking about later, the 609. But I have done the typical dispute where you can write and say, hey, this is not a charge for me, and or this isn't me, or and no lie, I've done it with stuff that was me and gotten it removed. Right? I'm gonna keep it all 100. But I think because like basically everything these bureaus are dealing with, there are a lot of mistakes that are made on people's credit reports. I think we talked about it. I know it's in the ebook and stuff we were talking about. It's like 78%. Like 78% of people that send in a dispute actually get it removed. So I think it's one of those things, like the dispute letter, don't be scared to utilize it as a tool, is what I'd say.
As far as my experience, I actually never disputed anything. I either decide to not pay it and leave it there and choose some other tools. I think some other tools that we talk about later on are great ways to help improve your credit, but I've never actually disputed anything.
Man, and straight up, man, most people don't, right? And that's why I asked that question, because it's either, you go to the website, like JD said, you dispute some of the stuff and then you may get lucky, right? Yeah. Or you just like, man, you know what? That was me. I'm gonna go ahead and let this ride, right? I figured it out down the line. But
I like that approach.
But it's crazy though, because like you were like, man, I know I spent it and it still got taken off. But the reason why did it get taken off? So when it comes to the different credit bureaus, okay, so you have the main ones, TransUnions, Equifax, Experian, right? And anytime you go out and you want to apply for some kind of debt, the person that you're applying with, they basically ask you for a release. to go and pull your report to see if you meet their underwriting qualifications. And they don't necessarily go to all three because one, it costs money to go and pull that information, but two, they may have their own setup with like a TransUnion instead of Experian, right? So as a consumer, that's one point. One tip here is you can go in when you're looking for credit and say you're going to go buy that car, you go to Chase, and you can ask Chase, which bureaus are you going to pull my credit from? Because TransUnion is going to have a score, Equifax is going to have a score, Experian is going to have a score. So if they tell you they're going to go to TransUnion and you're on point, you know what your score looks like with TransUnion, then you may not have to do anything, right? But in your case, JD, man, when you disputed that, it had to be something that the credit bureaus could not validate.
Well, I think it was actually like one of the ones I'm thinking about was an old Verizon bill. And to your point, you're correct. Like it showed up on one of my reports, but it didn't show up on the other two. So that tells me, and you know, like I said, like that one, I think was a very, very, very old account. And yeah, it didn't, there was, I think to your point, there wasn't enough information on the other reports to validate it, which is why it fell through.
I mean, that's a big thing because the little checkbox thing, if you talk to anybody who actually does credit repair, they're like, do the dispute letters, because in the dispute letters, you can actually, you're actually writing out a letter explaining why.
Mhm.
You don't really know what you're going to get with that automated box that's going through, right? They may read it, they may not. They get tons of those coming in. But if you're sending in a letter, they get ton of those too. But by law, they have to respond to that letter. So by law, they have to respond to that letter within the 30-day period. And there's different techniques, different dispute letters for different reasons. Your basic 609 is basically what you start with. That's the core. But we've got all the letters and stuff. When you buy the book, you get access to all the dispute letter library as well. But you have the different letters. You start out there and you kind of, mark your trail, but not to get too off on the tangent on that one. But
Right. We're gonna come back to that too. Yeah.
But for the people who don't actually send the letters in, you run the risk of your scores looking real bad, because if you think about it, once your score tanks, you're not going to get any more credit. So now your history is going to be nothing but bad credit.
Now you're stuck. You got a bad payment history. And I know payment history is basically your 35% of the score.
Yep.
Something like that.
And you're going to be waiting until you hit those limits, based on what you have on there, for it to fall off.
I think this whole thing with the letters is kind of like a whole mindset thing about just regardless if it's you did it or not. I think it's understanding that there are some discrepancies that may be in your report that it's like going before the judge. It's what you can prove through documentation. If it can't be proved through documentation, it didn't happen. Yeah. And I think for those of you all who are probably like me, who's like, well, shoot, I ran it up and I did it. And I don't really, like, I'm not even thinking about like, oh, I could have just disputed that. And, I wasn't thinking about it that way. I think that's one thing to think about, is that it's more so about what you can prove through documentation. It can't be proven through documentation. It just didn't happen.
You're saying it very kindly, Devontae. I'll go ahead and say it. Like, if they can't prove it, just like in court, it's not yours. You know what I mean? It sounds like a crazy theory, and it's definitely something that it took me a second to kind of, like you said, it was a psychological thing. It took something I had to wrap my head around. but understanding that even if your middle name is spelled wrong, even if they, they mess up the letters in between, like they just have the E is before the A or vice versa in your middle name or something like that, like that's a discrepancy. That is technically a discrepancy, and it can cause for something to be removed. But I think, like to your point, Tobias, is just wrapping your head around and understanding that. Now, you don't have to go about it that way. You can go the long way, like Morgan said earlier. But if you can wrap your head around that early and just understand that a discrepancy can lead to an issue, and because mind you, sometimes the discrepancies don't work in your favor. And they hurt you, and you don't even know they're there. So it's just getting rid of any discrepancies is going to help clean up your credit.
Yeah. And just a quick tip, because I forgot about this last time. What was the site? freeannualcreditreport.com. It's so many different sites, and they'll try to get you confused. But if you type in free annual credit report into Google, you'll come up to the site is called annualcreditreport.com. This site will give you a copy of each bureau once a year for free. So again, that's annualcreditreport.com. We don't get paid for that. It's just something that we use.
Right.
So just kind of recap that, man. Pay your bills on time. When you get that 49er credit card, man, for $250, don't spend $270 on that thing. Don't do it. You want to keep it around 30%, right? Some people say just pay it off at the end of the month. Well, everybody doesn't have that luxury. What's the point of a credit card if you're not going to use it? That's what I used to say. I used to use it. But you want to keep it under 30%, especially if you're trying to get business funding. And if your debt utilization is over 30%, it's a wrap, because you want to be somewhere around 10%. 10% is the ideal number for business credit, not 30. Personal 30, you'll get good score with some utilization, but business, you want to be at 10. Just like JD said, 1 in 5 people have errors on their report. So dispute. Maybe you get lucky.
We roll them dice, see what happens. Shoot.
All right. So our next topic is, the credit profile, revolving accounts, installment accounts, auto loans, mortgages, student loans. There's all types of different things that can be on your account, right? So let's stick with revolving accounts, right? So these are credit cards.
Right.
Installment accounts, right? You can go take a loan out for something.
Yeah. Card loan.
And what did I have? I had when we couldn't pay our American Express card a couple of years ago, American Express literally told us on the phone, you need to call these people, they'll give you a loan. Personal loan, so you can pay us back.
So that's like, we need that.
Yeah.
We need that.
Straight up, man. They did. On the phone, they called, say, hey, your bill was due. It was only a couple days past, because you got to pay them every month. So you guys want to call these people, and I remember me and Donnie, we went on the website, we got the money, and then you fill it out and it goes directly to them.
Right.
But that's an example, without being overdoing your credit card. You can get a loan for something, right? You can get that's basically what it is. Auto loan. I know people who never had an auto loan.
Right.
And they never had an auto loan, they make decent money, and then they go out to try to get a real nice car, and they either get a super high interest rate or they get denied for the amount because they never had
the history.
Yep. I think that's a lot of misunderstandings about credits. People think that you're going to have good credit because you don't use it. How would they
Yes.
know if you have good credit history if you don't use it? No one knows what you can do if you never show them. People
I
say,
think
I
that's a,
have good credit, because they're trying to avoid getting in debt, which I understand that. That was my standpoint too, because, my mom told me don't get into debt,
yeah.
but you have to show that you made some mistakes or you have good history and basically all the things that the market's talking about, the utilization, the payment history, all those things are really important, just showing that you have a track record. That's what you're looking for. They're looking for a track record. If you don't do it, there's no record.
Yeah, I think like to your point, Devontae, like I double down on it. Like you have to think of your credit when you think of your credit. We tend to think of it just as a number, but you have to think like what these companies are looking for before they loan you money. They're looking at your credit like a psychology report.
Mm-hmm.
This gives them an understanding of what type of borrower you are. It gives them understanding how your mind works, how disciplined are you in paying your bills on time, or if you did have a mishap, coming back and being able to catch up on your bills, or figuring out if you had to get something removed. But it's really just it helps the lender understand, like having a basically a well put together profile lets them look and say, okay, this person has experience here, here, and here as far as having credit. So I feel more comfortable loaning to this person.
Right.
Hey, these last two, mortgages, student loans that are on the list, a common question is if you have student loans and say it's like forbearance or you deferred it, it counts. So it's not like it just disappears.
Yeah.
It's going to count towards your utilization. Everybody has their own way of adding it in, right? When they're considering you. I know when I did home loans, we use mortgages. We use student loans when you're getting approved for mortgages. And if you're in forbearance, then there's a certain percentage of the total loan that has to be applied for the monthly. And I know a lot of clients when they were trying to get their houses and stuff, they would have that large student loan in deferment, and they don't have anything that shows what the monthly was. So you have to use the calculation.
So you got to guess at it. That's worse.
The calculation is always worse.
Yeah, it's worse.
So,
yeah, I totally get that. I mean, I think that's confusing for consumers too, because they're thinking like, well, I don't know what the payment is, and they're not understanding from this standpoint. They're thinking about, well, I'm not paying it. It's not an obligation right now. But people are looking at it. It's at one point it's going to be an obligation. What's going to happen then at that point?
Exactly, man. So, but yeah, it's a thing that, so in all, you can have different things on your credit profile, right? You want to have a nice mix of a lot of different things, because the more that you have to show that you have good history and payment with strong age of years, a good solid 4 years, then the more likely you will be qualified for, consumer credit or business credit, more importantly, right? You want to be at those solid levels. Okay. So it's about that profile. And when you're looking at, I think one of the big things is on their profile is your age, right? And I think that's where a lot of people run into problems where they didn't, for whatever reason, have either enough open credit, or the age is young because they're just now getting into, getting a credit card maybe a year or two ago, where you're trying to get to that 4 years. You'll go out and buy trade lines too to help increase that, the actual available and the age of the credit. Sometimes it works with some companies. Some companies look at it negatively as well. But
real quick, Mark, you want to touch on exactly what a trade line is too?
Yes, please explain that.
The easiest way to explain it is it's basically you become an authorized user on somebody's account. And what the trade line is it's a specific type of account it could be a credit card. It could be, typically you do it with credit cards. You don't want to do it with anything else, but you become, basically you piggyback someone else's credit that way you can take their years and their credit payment history as well into this. So all the good stuff. So I'll give you an example. When my oldest, when she turned 17, I added her on one of my credit cards that I had. It was like 15 grand, right? And because she didn't have any credit history, the easiest way is to add that trade line onto her account. So by the time she turned 18, on her 18th birthday, we checked a couple days afterwards, and she was well over 745 or something like that. With never did anything, and it's the power of the trade line. She was able to get that age of the reporting card.
Yeah, I actually had the same experience too. With my mom, I think she got a credit card in my name. My mom is actually she's way more safer with money. I'm way more risky with money, but she's way more like she'll pay her stuff off. So my credit was really helped when I was younger because she had that credit card in my name. Yeah.
That's really cool. I think that's a good way, and that's one of the ways I've definitely heard to learn, because I'm doing that with my daughters too. It's basically letting them piggyback off of you, like you using those trade lines. So like you said, a lot of people don't even know that that's an option of something you can do. Oh, yeah. But I think so. You got to figure out, like you said, because that's the other thing. To Marcus's point, though, all companies don't allow it. Some companies won't count the history or whatnot. But finding out that there are companies out there, it's a good way to start your kids on a healthier path than you may have started on. Definitely not started on.
Yeah, definitely, man. And I had no idea this existed. So you can do it for other people, because I remember my cousin kind of put me onto this quite a few years ago, where him and his wife, they put his sister on the card, and it helped increase her credit score. So that way, she could qualify for, the better interest rates on the car loans, the better apartments and stuff like that, because it matters. Right. It matters. He didn't give me the trade line though, so I didn't get it.
I see you hesitated with the shout outs. Now I understand.
Right.
You didn't give me the trade lines,
Yeah. Oh man.
But let's get on to this, the whole purpose, man. Understanding your credit report, right? So we talked about the bureaus, we talked about, different things on the profile. What do you need to do? You're in a situation right now. These are my top couple things that I would suggest anybody who are looking to build their score, get to 750. Out the gate, the easiest thing to do is to dispute your inquiries. It's very simple. In the book, there's a quick, and I can't give this away, but I can tell you exactly, or I can tell you kind of what you're supposed to do. You do a dispute letter, and you put all those inquiries on there, because one thing we know about credit bureaus, the big three, and the people that are going out and adding those inquiries to your credit report is they don't document for nothing. So basically all you got to put in there is, I didn't do this credit inquiry, and you need to verify it. It needs to be removed immediately, right? And then we have some language built in there, so that way it can be removed. It gives them some urgency to remove it immediately. And you type that up, you make it specific to your credit bureau, right? So like before, TransUnion may have some inquiries, Experian may have some inquiries, right? So you type up the letter based on the different bureaus, and you send it out, and you demand that they're done within 30 days, right? Here's a little bit of secret sauce. On that letter, you want to backdate that letter about a week when you send it out. So because they get 30 days, you might have chopped off 7 of those 30 days as you sent it in. Right. So those are some tips. I would start with the inquiries first. And then once the inquiries are all removed, then I'll work on the errors. Your name, wrong names, wrong addresses. You know, JD, I'm sure you got a lot of wrong names, man, because the longer your name.
That Macklemore be throwing them off. It'd be throwing them off, man. And then the other cool part is my father's a senior, I'm a junior, and my son's the third. And damn near none of us use our suffix. We don't put the senior, junior. Like I had to literally get on my son, like, man, make sure you're using third, because I don't know if they send the stuff for you or for me. So I know that's a big part of it too. But yeah, like that Macklemore throws him off all the time.
Now, man, I didn't think about that, but yeah, juniors. My cousin, man, he has some issues with that too, with his dad. Like that senior junior dynamic, boy.
Man, throw you for a loop. Like, hold on, I ain't bought no 76 Buick. Like, what's this? So.
Hey, now the dispute process, man. When you get going and you look at all those errors, you can dispute off all the errors, you know. But you want to be selective too. So if you got one on there, you know, say you might have closed it out because you didn't know not to close the card, but you're 100% payment, you had that thing for 10 years, you may want to keep that on there. You know, just don't dispute off for the sake of disputing off.
Right.
You know, so be selective. You know, take the bad stuff off.
Hello.
All right, but there's a process too, man, when you're doing the actual disputes. So here's a second sauce, right? There's secondary bureaus. So we always talk about Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, but you got your LexisNexis, you got all these other bureaus who keep data. And when you see it in your dispute letters, they have to verify it. They're either gonna verify it with these secondary bureaus. And because I know my rights, I know I can write to, call in, or go on a couple of them on their website and freeze all activities concerning me from anybody in the world. So if I freeze the bureau who is in charge of what do you call it? Shoot, slip my mind. Defaults on your home loans or repos or whatever. If you freeze the specific bureau, because it's a couple of them, when you dispute, they can't verify. And it
means they gotta remove it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which means they gotta remove it.
Gotta remove it. So
loophole of the game.
The process itself, I'm gonna share this one more time because this is good stuff, and I think everybody should be able to see this one more time. The process. You want to dispute the secondary bureaus. You want to, or freeze the secondary bureaus. You want to dispute the big threes. And you can't be afraid to file complaints. You got the CFPB, FTC, Better Business Bureau. You got a couple of different bodies that exist to help us as consumers protect our rights from these companies who, they don't really care. They don't really care about us.
Right.
They're just there to
stop them from running wild.
Exactly. So that's what we got to do, man. It's the process. It's all outlined in the book. But this going through the book, guys. What do you guys think about the book and how it's laid out and what's in there? Because
easy to read. Go ahead, Jody.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's easy to read, easy to understand, very simple, simple language. I mean, like you can really go through it, really, really quickly, fast. And I think the steps, I like how it's lined out in steps. Step 1, step 2. For some folks who don't know where to start, maybe it's like new just kind of language. I would say it's definitely something you can just go through step by step and just do it.
You know what I'm saying? I like it. Like you said, it's simpler. The process is simpler than you think it is. And the book just outlines that, and then for it to go from step 1 to step 2, have the links to all the different bureaus, all the different service centers that you need for, setting up your profile before you start disputing everything. Like it literally has everything you need to go through the process. And I love it because it just gives you a lot. It explains the process too. Like we went over it, as we're doing it, we're going over it fast because there's a lot of information that you're going to need to process and bring to video. But literally, like this has so much information because it explains what you're doing. It explains what these other bureaus are, why, how they work, all of that good stuff. Like all these abbreviations that we may have been using during the call, it explains what those are too. So you get a better understanding of how credit truly, truly works and how you can use it to leverage, your business or your personal life.
All right, hey man. So let's do a quick recap because we're not done yet. But we talked about a lot of stuff over these last 40 minutes. How credit works, reporting, how the reporting works, a strong credit profile, your credit report. So we skimmed over a lot of this stuff. We went in depth into a couple topics where time permits, but after you do that and you set it all up, we're gonna go into the next phase, right? How do you actually structure it for the business credit?